Greetings and happy Maybon. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about using magic to restore balance in our lives. Now before I start, some of you may be wondering, why do we want to have balance in our life? What is that? Is that really that important? Well, for some of us, it's extremely important. Most of you know that I'm an empath, and you see me here if you watch any of my videos, you see most of my videos I'm wearing. I wear a lot of gemstone bracelets, but I pretty much always wear these two, which are identical, which are identical, um, and I that helps me keep the sense of balance in my life. So I'm kind of really sensitive to it, and I use Maybon this time of the year, the equinox, the autumn equinox, um, to try to get myself into balance, back into balance, where I might have been thrown off a little bit, like we all are. Um, Before we go into the really dark time of the year, the darkest time of the year, when we tend to do a lot of things, a lot of shadow work, we're cooped up, we're spent more time maybe cooped up, isolated inside. We maybe don't have that same sense of balance that we had in the warmer months, maybe when we spend more time outside, in our garden or at the beach or camping. A lot of things that we do that way that help us when we're outside in the elements. We tend to very easily uh, feel a greater sense of balance. So for me, it's very important, from always, and for me this year particularly. If you have been watching my channel, you know that my husband and I really kind of got knocked off our feet during the last 6 months. We had a battle with health issues for my husband. And I feel like, in a way, we had our feet kind of knocked out from under us. So we were really wanting to do everything we could to get ourselves back to feeling both feet on the ground, steady, um, ready to go again, ready to move forward again. One way we did that was we held, on Friday night, last Friday night, we held a burning here at the house with several close friends. And that was, we had a burning where we actually took items that we wanted to not use any longer, that we wanted to remove from our life, and we actually put them into our fire. And some things, like one of the things that was burned was the poppet that I had made for Joe, his healing poppet, which you might have seen me make here on my channel, that has served him for 6 months. I made it in March, and it has been sitting on the altar here in the parlor, along with all the healing candles people have given him, all of the warm wishes. The incense has been burning that I made for him. I've oiled it regularly. It worked very well for him, but the time he's got a good health report from his doctor, so it was time to take the poppet out of service. So we chose to burn the poppet, and we did that, and we burned some other things. Okay, but before I get into anything particular that we might want to do at this time of the year, I want to say what kind of things, if we want to talk about getting ourselves in balance. Now, you see, that was, it's easy to see. Well, of course, with the health scare, you can get knocked off your feet very easily. Other times that you can readily see how your life might not be in balance is if you have been spending an over amount of time and doing nothing but work. That's very common. And just not having any time for friends, and any time for family, or any time for relaxation, or reading, or play, or petting your dog, or or just simply, putting your feet in the water. We all go through those kind of periods, and when it feels like, oh, you're just overwhelmed, and it's really exhausting when that happens to you. So those are times that are very obvious that your life is out of balance, and you need to do something to bring it back into balance. Very obvious, okay? During the 2020 pandemic, when it first began, We were all forced to make abrupt changes in our lifestyle, and our world, most of us that were out in the world was very large to a lot of us, all of a sudden became very small when we were quarantined and put at home and alone, right? We were put at home, away from our friends, away from our work, away from our family, away from our churches, wherever, our hobbies. And all of a sudden, our world grew very small, didn't it? How that felt. But a lot of us, those of us who survived the pandemic, I don't mean health wise, but those of us who fared the best with that adjustment were people who looked for ways to expand their world. As their world was physically smaller during that time, we looked to ways that we could expand our world, and we looked to things like YouTube. We looked at things like Zoom. We looked at things like, yes, even Netflix. Netflix saved my life, I have to tell you. Watching, especially watching a lot of course, a lot of nonsense, but also a lot of documentaries and things, some special series that were showing me how certain people, different people lived all over the world, and what was how different people their relationship around the world, or their food around the world, or their just their work or their lifestyle. It was eye opening to me. All of a sudden, my world became very large again. Became very large again. And if I would not have had that forced stay home, I would have been stuck in my regular day to day, life and not sought, and I would have gone out of balance. I feel like I was out of balance. And those of you who watch my channel know that I very much went into 2020 feeling very out of balance because I had been overwhelmed with my lifestyle before I went into that quarantine. So for me, it was very healing. It was a very healing time for me. Okay. Now, those ideas we can apply at Mabon. This is a perfect time because Mabon is the equinox. It's all about a day, a time when the hours of darkness are equal to the hours of light. And then now, after that has passed, it happened last week, the days are going to be darker, more dark, more dark, more dark, more dark, up until Yule, which is the darkest day of the year. We're going to continue through the darkness. Okay. How can we go into that with maintaining a sense of balance? One of the ways that I like to do it is this is just generally speaking, think about how we approach pretty much any season. We know first if I say autumn, here in the Northern Hemisphere, for most people, particularly the people that are in the northern part of North America, it seemed to think that, autumn, they think of autumn in the fall, they think of course, the cooling temperatures. They do think of the nights growing longer. They think of the colors, the leaves turning on the trees. They think of beginning harvest in the garden dying. Those are things that we can readily see. Okay. But think about what kind of things do you hear? What sounds do you hear in the fall? You might think again the crackling fires. You might think of the crunching of the leaves. You might thinking of the noises, the birds migrating, leaving for the winter. Some of them as they fly overhead. What kind of things do you smell? You might smell. What are the tastes of the season? Everybody knows about the pumpkin spice, but enjoying all of these things, and how does it make you feel? How does the fall or the autumn make you feel? Put in some actual thought into those things, and celebrating the season using all of your senses is a great way, naturally, to keep yourself in balance. And I think you will find a lot of people do that, and it's very healthy. But other people they want every day to just stay the same, just stay the same, just stay the same. Control, we want the temperature always to be the same, the amount of daylight always to be the same. You always see people that complain about, too many hours or too dark or too cold or too hot or too wet or too dry. There's always people that complain because they want things to be the same. And it seems like those are the people that should be the most in balance, but those are the people that are the least in balance because they are so easily thrown off balance by the slightest deviation in what they think to be normal. It is normal to have deviations. It is normal to see different things at different times of the year, to smell different things at the time of the year, to feel different feelings at different times of the year. That is normal, and that is a part of being in a healthy state of balance. Okay. Now, what about what kind of things can you do? Like we here in California, we have a great excitement, for September and October this time of the year. Those of us who live next to the coast, not just in California, but my daughter is experiencing this up in Oregon. The migrating whales. The whales are migrating from the Arctic down to Baja for the winter in the water. They will do, and then they will migrate back up again. Um, after several months, they will migrate back up. So we often we can see whales at this time of the year very often, right from the shore. We can see them. It's amazing. It's just amazing, celebrating these changes that happen at different times of the year. Okay. Um, One thing I want to say is another really important exercise that you can do to get yourself in better balance is to look for things from another perspective other than your normal perspective. I have taught on this channel lessons that I have learned. I have mentioned several times that I have learned lessons from my crows here in my neighborhood. Um, how they sit up in the high cypress trees and they look at things from a completely different perspective. They are so far up, they can see everything. They can see everything that I cannot. My world is limited here in my cul-de-sac, what I can see. They can see from that high vantage point in the cypress trees. And I learned a lot from imagining myself up with the crows and looking down over what do I see. You can do the same thing. Think about it, how this could affect your life. Think about it. What about if we all have like a neighbor, there's a house in the neighborhood that, sort of is run down or we don't like the color they painted the house. Maybe it's a house across the street. There's something we find about the house that we don't really like. We just don't like it. Um, we don't like what they did to it. They changed it or whatever. I know we had a neighbor until very recently here in the cul-de-sac who, um, I can't tell you what the neighbors called him because it would be too political. But he was always building walls and building up fences and barriers and trying to block himself off from the rest of the neighborhood. He didn't like it here in the neighborhood, and he was always trying to, didn't want to have to look at the rest of us. Okay, so we have these kind of neighbors. But did you ever go across the street to your neighbor's house and look back at your own house and say, this is what my neighbor sees? What does my neighbor see when my neighbor looks at my house? I can tell you, my neighbor can see. I need to replace my fence. My neighbor can see. I have dead grass in the yard because I've sacrificed all my water to my tomatoes. They can see that. They can see that. They can see that maybe I have, a wall that's in need of repair, or I have a driveway that could maybe be paved or whatever. They can maybe see that. They can maybe look and say, tarot reader, what kind of a person lives there? If they don't know me and they don't understand me, that can make them feel a little insecure in their world. Okay. This is what happens. Look for something from another person's point of view. Go into neighborhoods that you're not used to going into, and maybe ethnic neighborhoods that you've not been in if you're near a city. Go into a different kind of a neighborhood other than your own. And what kind of smells do you smell? You're going to smell things cooking. Taste the food. Experience what it would be like to be living in that neighborhood. Expand your world. Expand your world. The more of the world we bring to our heart, the better we feel in balance. I am a firm believer of that. I really am a firm believer of that. Okay? If you think you have problems, we all do these. If you think you have problems, go volunteer at a shelter. Go volunteer at an animal shelter if you don't want to be around people. Collect food for the food bank. There's so many people that are worse off than you. Knit some socks or hats for the people that are living out in the streets. There's always people worse off than you are. It changes your whole life. It changes your perspective. Those are all ways, simple, everybody can do these kind of things to get yourself back in balance. And what happens when you start doing these things? What happens when you start paying more and more attention to the elements, all of the elements around you? What happens? What happens is you start to notice more details. You start to notice more things that you up until this time have been ignoring, And what happens as a result of that is your intuition increases, right? Maybe you had empathic tendencies of your own and you didn't realize it. This is one of the reasons they say some people are empathic, because they notice so many details that other people don't notice. And they read them so fast because they don't even realize they're reading the details. They don't even realize it, okay? They don't realize what they're doing. So you get there's a lot of benefits for bringing balance into your life, okay? Now, what I want to talk to you about today, and I promise you, I don't want this to be a long video, but I want to show you one magical way that you can achieve balance in your life. I'm going to be doing a series in the upcoming weeks on working with the elements, all of the elements, and why we want to work with the elements, and different ways that we can achieve balance in our life working with elements. I do have a lot of videos already up, and you'll be realizing that a little more. I will be linking those in the upcoming weeks back to some of the places, but I want to tell you, some places when we use, like, let's talk about earth magic. When we do earth magic, for instance, I have already done videos on a lot of things using earth energy magically, and that is something like when we buried the witch's bottles, okay, when we made the magical salt, okay, maybe when we did healing with crystals. Those are all kind of things that will help us achieve balance, more balance in our life by working with the element of earth, okay. I just mentioned earlier in this video that on Friday of last week, some friends gathered with Joe and I, and we held a burning. We used the element of fire to cleanse and release our negativity, to bring us into balance, to get us back on the ground. And that's what I'm going to show you, one little trick that we did that you might want to incorporate in your life. It was a really fun thing to do. I'm also going to tell you, coming up, if you watch next week, it should be Tuesday, because it's a tarot video, but we're going to use tarot cards to help get ourselves into balance, and that's going to be a little bit of a fun video that you can do too. So it's not necessarily tarot readings, but it's an activity using tarot cards that we want to use. So if you're interested at all, you have a tarot deck, you might want to tune in on Tuesday for that. But right now, I'm going to show you what we used. One thing we did for the burning. We did several activities for the burning, but one thing particularly we did for the burning was we burned poppets. We made poppets that we threw into the fire, not just the poppet that I had made for Joe, but we made other poppets. And I thought I should clear something up right now, first of all, because I know I've done quite a few videos, not a lot, but, a good many, videos on this channel where I have used poppets for one thing or another. And one of the main reasons you have seen me use poppets was for binding. And that's what most people think of when they think of poppets. They think of binding. I have done quite a few of those, and with my poppets that I made that I put in daughter, had daughter inside, those, I've even sold quite a few of those. People wanted to do bindings of their own. But I've done all kinds of bindings, and nothing else that comes to mind was this little poppet here that I made. And you might have seen me do these. This is a poppet that is, I usually bury my poppets. That's one of my main ways when I do bindings, is to bury them. This one has not been buried, but it has been baptized. It has been tagged. I keep it in a metal box. I keep these in a metal box. I have some other ones in there. They're held in there safely. I just got it out to show you that I know that this has been bound because I have wrapped it with black cord, and that's something to show me. And the reason I'm showing you this now is because the poppets that we made to burn were kind of similar to this, but I want to show you. I'm going to change my camera and show you what they look like, and I'm going to show you how we made them, and then I'm going to show you what they were for and what we did with them. And that's the little activity that I thought you might like to do this time of the year. It's a real fun activity. Anybody can do it. So let me fix my camera, and I'll show you what I did. Okay, this is a better, closer look of the poppet that I have done for binding. This is a binding I have done, and this is, I keep in a metal box, a black metal box here in my parlor. But the reason I bring it up is I started out the same way. to make the poppets that we use, but instead of for binding, we use them for healing. And this is what I have. This is what I have. And this is what, when people got here at the binding, they received a poppet. This was all wound up around here. But what I did was I just secured it in the back here. So it would unravel because it was made. And then they were given markers, a marker, and they were to write here on the end of it, still had an end, what it was they wished to remove from their life, okay? And then it was simply, after they did that, and then it was simply, they were just supposed to wind this any way they wanted to around their poppet like this. And then they got a shorter piece that they tied, and I will show you. I will show you that in a minute, how they did that, okay? Well, I can show you now. They just wound it around there, and then they took another piece with intention. This was done with intention. And then this was knotted. Intention put into the knots. Okay, just like that. And then this, we had the burning ritual, and then when it was their turn, they threw their poppet into the fire, and then and of course we were singing and drumming and all kinds of things. Okay, but I wanted to show you real quickly how you can do one of these, because they're very easy to do. They're really kind of very easy to do and very simple. And now you see this one had nothing. What I want to say is, if I open this up again, I want to remind you that the difference between this one and the one I just showed you which was for binding. This is what they got. And it didn't have any writing on it at all. I just wrote that on there. We just wrote that on there to show you how it would be. But this is nothing but 3 sticks and some of this linen, some of this torn linen. This has nothing in it. This one, it has wrapped up inside. It doesn't. It might have said something, but it has tags. It has tags. It has been baptized. It has the name of the person that I'm binding in here. I think there's a piece of paper in here. It might have herbs in here. It might have stones in here. It might have hair. It might have anything that I felt appropriate in my binding spell wrapped up in the cloth. And then the actual binding was done with the cloth, as I said my intentions. Okay. So this is a complete package with a lot of stuff in here. Okay. This is nothing but 3 sticks and a length of cloth. Okay, that's all it is. So you can theoretically, like this one, I can keep this one since I didn't put anything on it particularly. We can keep this in my cupboard, in my witch's cupboard, and be prepared for any time that I want to release something, remove something from my life. It's like a spell waiting to be used, right? It's already waiting to be used. Now, how do I get that? And I love to do those. I have other poppets for binding that are ready to be used. I have witch's ladders ready to be used. There's a lot of things that I keep in my cupboard. I've done videos on that before, and I'll do some more coming up. If you like them, you can let me know if that's the kind of things you want me to show you. I'll be happy to show you. And then I don't have to go out and collect sticks and do all this stuff when it's time to do something. If I want to remove something, I can very simply wrap this up, and it'll be ready to be burned, or it would be ready to be buried. It can be buried. It's just 3 sticks and linen, which is natural fiber, which will decompose readily into the earth. I don't have to worry about it, okay? Now, I just want to show you real quick how I did it. There's no magic to it, and you can do it anyway. And I just have 3 sticks. As a matter of fact, I keep sticks about this length all the time in my, anytime we take off a dead branch or something, or have to trim something, I like to keep some sticks just handy in my cupboard, where sometimes I need them, okay? Approximately the same length. They don't have to be completely exactly the same. And then I get a strip of fabric, and I think for this, I cut them about I didn't cut it, I tore it, and I think that looks like it's about a yard long, okay? And then I can use more if I want to. But what I want to show you is I take two, which I'm going to call these the legs, and the third one is going to be the arms that crosses this way. Okay. And what I do is I just start and I fold it over the head. I put it over the face, hold it with my hand, and then I put the other one, the third one behind, and then I bring it forward. And then to keep it held together, I start wrapping. And I will either go over the shoulder, one shoulder, the other, or around. Maybe I'll go over the other shoulder and around to hold that in place. And then I will usually go between the legs just to keep the legs apart a little bit. And then up around. You just see, I just keep wrapping that way. Any way that you feel. Okay, and then when I can leave a length. I can keep going if I want it to be fatter. I can make it fatter. But other than that, I will just leave a length here where I can write what it is that I want to remove from my life. And then I will, after I write it, then I just, any way I feel like it, wrap it around. If I want to go over the shoulders again, like that. And then I take my short one and I cross it. And I just tie it. And it doesn't matter if there's an extra length or whatever. It doesn't have to come out even. This is not art. It's not art. It's magic. It's witchcraft. It's not supposed to be pretty. It's supposed to be magical. Okay? And that's it. And then this is what holds my attention. And this is what I want to release into the fire. I want to cleanse into the fire. Okay? Very simple. It's a very, very simple little spell. Very, very simple little, you can make it into a ritual or you can just do it. You don't have to have any magical words to go along with it. Okay? I'm wrapping this because this is something I can use another time. But you get the idea. Very simple, very different from the binding. Completely different purpose. Poppets can be for healing, poppets can be for releasing, poppets can be for binding. They can be all kinds of things. It is you putting your intention into a figurine that is supposed to represent a person, either the person you're binding, or in this case, it's representing something that is holding you personally back, and right on that. Joe's poppet for his healing was representative of him. He used his sock and his hair and his nails, and okay, just for him. Okay, there you have it. A simple, very simple little activity that you can do to get things gone from your life that you don't want to drag around with you anymore. Get rid of your baggage. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. You know, it's amazing how you will feel after it happens. Not everybody recognizes their lack of balance in their life. But I think if you slow down and you think about it, give it a little bit of thought, start paying a little more attention to your life surroundings, you're going to find that you are maybe not as imbalanced as you thought you were. Okay. Alrighty, so that's just about it for today. Remember, like I said, I'll put some links for some of these videos of the past that might help you with more information. But other than that, I would like it very much if you could join me next Tuesday, where we look at a fun little activity using tarot cards. And also look for my upcoming videos in the weeks to come on working with the elements. Okay. As always, I'm Rebecca. Thank you so much for watching. I wish you blessings.